This is part 2 of a lecture on Cheick Oumar Sissoko's La Genèse or Genesis. So I'm not going to go back into the reintroduction of the basic material here. You can go back and watch the first lecture for that. We're just going to pick up where we left off at the end of the last lecture as we're doing this line by line, in fact, film analysis and comparing this Malian film to the actual biblical text, Genesis itself, and discussing how the way in which this film it sheds a lot of light on the biblical text, but it also tells us a great deal about the contemporary situation in Mali and the reformation of the republic, the idea of the republic in the West African setting. So we'll just continue where we left off with Cheick Oumar Sissoko's film La Genèse or Genesis. Now, to review very briefly this one aspect, I want to look at this scene from the poisoning of Esau in the film. And this is because the way in which this is presented, as I said previously, you get this suggestion in a lot of religious contexts, let's say church settings, for instance, or rabbinical in the synagogue, when exegetical readings of the text are being made. There's often this suggestion that the fault, was Esau for his foolishness, his disregard of his birthright, his inability to control his appetite. But this film suggests that while that was certainly a factor, that also there was a sense in which Jacob really wronged his brother. He treated him very wrongly. He committed an act of injustice to his brother. So we could say he's out of joint with his brother. Their relationship has become disjointed. And we said that this structurally parallels very similar stories in the Egypto-African context. First, in the first instance, the story of Seth and Horus, in which Horus tricks Seth into eating the fluids of his body, the polluted fluids of his body, and thereby wins this contest between them that's enacted along the Nile for many thousands of years. Similarly, the story of the emergence of the griot is when two brothers are journeying across the savannah, and one saves his brother by feeding him his flesh, then which pollutes the brother who eats the flesh, saves his life, but causes the brother to have to sing the praises of his older brother who saved him, but has therefore in effect made himself taboo because of his consumptions of the fluids of his brother. And so the soup is described as a kind of a red soup in the biblical text, as we saw in the last lecture. And in Sissoko's film, it's referenced as a poisoned soup. So there's a sense in which part of Jacob's injustice is he's committed this, you can think of it as an occult act against Esau, which is in effect a form of having, poisoned him, perhaps literally by placing the fluids of his body in the soup that Esau consumes. But let's look and see how the film by Sissoko handles this incident.
Esau nana kabo don soyala don kungo madiala kongo fana tuya ni toro kojo kongo madia ma fen soro kongo bena abi komi nga jojuru don yere kana kata nyere firi su fela ma kono ni su ko ra be dominique yakuba dogoni mandi bi deli kongo be nyini nga mfaka ke faka oh sake ne sara ne tina ke lu denje polo yo ni bode fe ota mo go fere to koraina I ka sɔn naji dɔ di yan. E dale k'a fɔ dɛ. Kale. Kale ma layira. Yen kale. Kale ɲɛnama.
N kɔrɔ cɛ y'i kale. A ko ne Isawu, Isaka den, Ibrahima ni Nuhu mɔden, n ye n kale mankala la k'a fɔ n bɛ n ka kɔrɔya falen I ka sɔ nanji la.
Sɔ nanji dɔrɔn.
Kosɛbɛ. O kɛra.
Sɔsɔji gansan ka. Isaka. O y'a fara ka bɔ ne na.
So you see there that that Jacob has essentially tricked his brother. He's humiliated him, and Esau is now in this position where he's completely cast off. Now, in the biblical text, we're told that we get this story about Esau, about the father of Jacob and Esau, Isaac, putting skins on his arms because Esau is said to be a hairy man, but he's blind, and this is part of the trickery, the deceit of Rebekah, who favors Jacob. The biblical text tells us that the father favors, Isaac favors Esau, but Esau has displeased his parents, because, for instance, he's married with local women who are not from the same group, much like this situation, this problem of exogamy, and he's not respected the ties of blood, and so these are absolutely related questions. The contamination of blood nobility through the poisoning of the soup, and then thereby making his own bodily fluids dirty, filthy in effect, but also he's willing to mingle with those who are not of the same tribe, of the same group, and thereby also he shows for his parents, in any case, no respect for those traditional ties of blood, which Jacob does. So, for instance, when Isaac sends a servant back to his people to find a wife for Isaac, he brings back Rebekah. It's begin out of this desire to honor the ties of blood, and Jacob does this, Esau does not. So that's a related question as well in the biblical text. Now, in the next episode, we're going to look at this. There's a little sort of story within a story that's told by who appears to be a kind of a griot figure of the Hivites at this council, at this gathering. And the story is an actual biblical story that's told about Judah, who is one of the sons of Jacob, who gets himself into a situation because his sons, he tries to, he doesn't keep his vows or his promises with Tamar, the son of one of his, or the wife of one of his sons, because his oldest son, Judah's oldest son, dies, and then he gives this woman Tamar by custom. Then the brother then marries the widow of the son who died, the brothers who died, and Tamar, so then marries the younger brother Onan. But Onan, when he has relations with Tamar, he pulls out right before he ejaculates, and spills. And the biblical text tells us spills his seeds on the floor of the tent. The reason why he does this becomes known as onanism, which is another word for masturbation. You can see there a tract against the heinous sin of self-pollution of onanism. This word onanism is linked to masturbation, because Onan is having sex with Tamar for the purposes of pleasure, but not for the purposes of procreation, because he doesn't want Tamar to have a child, because then that child will consider to be the child of his older brother who is dead. And so, but in the eyes of God in the biblical text, Onan commits a great sin, and then he dies. So God basically kills him for this, or at least that's what the biblical text tells us. But Judah now is reluctant to let Tamar marry his third son, because now his two other sons have died, and so he doesn't let Tamar marry the third. And this is by rights. She has the right to marry, but he won't let her do it. She has the right, in effect, to become pregnant, to have the offspring of Judah of Judah's children, Judah's sons, but he prevents her from having this right. Now, Judah is a character in the film. He's the one that we saw in the last lecture. How he pushed Benjamin off of him, and he's the one whose son was going to be cut in half, and he blames the peasants for tricking him into marrying a peasant girl. And so it's an interesting dynamic. But the griot, as we're going to see, tells this same story, but he tells it, and it's the biblical story, but it also applies to in this context as well. So let's have a look at this very interesting scene. It's about a 4-minute scene, so we'll watch it.
Kanana kauka atta ne Onan ne Sheila aiwa muso furu wati sele Yuda aye muso nyini atenge folo no eri muso min togo ko Tamar o furu mame sale Yuda anani kanto atenge flana manoye Onan ye ako Onan mogo ni koroke saraka muso to ibise ka muso ta furula okmana sa Onan yere nana don ka fo ameo menale nana Tamar furu ka ten sorafe abina foko tendu o lasa Onan ni Tamar mana dotlana sanga ni wati kutufa ni sawaji kwa na wati kwa bise okmana Onan bi fo shini go shuru tuguma Onan na digi mangala lasa mangala yito la kaka kalfa minana o Yuda na no laje ko jate mine ko ketere jugu yaye o kososa ama songa ada denge sabana maina fa kunga ka kechogo mi no toko eko shella nana kana jate minɛ k'a fɔ u t'a fɛ Yuda sibolo ka bɔ ale la. O waati a y'a sɔrɔ Yuda yɛrɛ labɛnnen bɛ a bɛna taa dugutaa la. Muso in sɔrɔla sa ka finiw don a yɛrɛ la sa k'a yɛrɛ labɛn i komi sungurubaw b'a kɛ cogo min walasa maa si kan'a dɔn ni ka laban ka taa sigi a burankɛ tɛmɛsira la. Kalo saba o kɔfɛ u nana Yuda lasɔmi. Yuda i buramuso Tamar kelen bɛ k'a yɛrɛ kɛ sunguruba belebele ye wa a yɛrɛ kelen bɛ ka kɔnɔ sɔrɔ a la. O kɛlen Yuda ko a y'a minɛ a ka taa jeni. U taalen a minɛ sa k'u bɛ taa jeni a sɔrɔla ka maa ci a burankɛ ma. Cɛ min ta ye nin bolokɔnɔla nɛgɛ ye o de ye kɔnɔ da ne na. Yuda ne burankɛ e yɛrɛ sɔnn'o ma i y'i jɔ a la i yɛrɛ nan'i kanto ko muso in bɛ ne ni ladiriya cɛ sabu n ye ba k'a di n denkɛ Sheila ma o dun tun kan ka n bɔ n'a sɔrɔ muso in fɛ o de kama ne Tamar ne bɛ tɔgɔma bi n kunkɔrɔ talen fadenw cɛ ma. Sheila ne furukɛ wuli k'i jɔ. Dina nde ne y'a sɔrɔ la sikɛ min ye kɔnɔ da i la i bɛ sufɛla makɔnɔ k'i dogo k'a tiɲɛ k'a malo b'i kun ma i cɛ ka ɲi kɛlɛ jinɛ de woloma dɛ. Nege bilen bɛ ne kɔnɔ maa si t'a dan dɔn. Nfa i tɛ ɲɛ ne ma wa i ka n sɔn cɛkɔrɔni na hali n'o ma kɛ n diya ɲɛgɛn ye n langolo ka taa si o fɛ. Kana wuli i dogolen to jama la su kora ka tile to kuncɛ wajibikuru fana tɛna nɔ bila.
Okay, so there's a lot going on there. So let's just unpack that for a minute. You can see there now. I've got a more extended genealogy here, and you can see from this genealogy, you might notice again there is Jacob and Leah and Rachel. So you have Jacob and Rachel and Leah about in the middle there. And then you have the sons of Leah and the sons of Rachel. Now the sons of Rachel are, of course, Joseph and Benjamin, and then they're the ones with the concubine. But Leah, her son, Judah is one of her sons. And you can see there's Reuben's, Simeon, Levi, Judah. And then Judah has 3 sons through Bathshua, who is, in this as presented here, the daughter of one of the Canaanite peasants. So Ur marries Tamar, but he dies. And so then Tamar marries Onan, and then Onan, as we said, spills his seed on the floor of his tent, and God kills him for this. So now 2 of Judah's sons have died, and then there's Shelah, but Judah, not wanting more bad luck, doesn't let Tamar marry Judah, but Tamar is entitled. You could say quite literally, she is entitled to the seeds, to the family seeds, in order to become pregnant, and so that she can have children herself. But Judah has denied her this, so she dresses herself up as a prostitute, and then Judah has relations with her, not knowing that it's her. And then when she has a child later, he wants to have her put to death, and she says, "Whoever gave me this ring is responsible for it." Now, and then Judah realizes his sin, or what he did wrong. Now note again, she takes the ring from him. And we said, remember, the ring is always significant. It is a sign of the covenant. And we said that in the case of the killing of the sons of Hamor, in Shechem, and all of the other men of the village of Hamor, the sons of Jacob showed no regard for their covenants. And this is why Jacob calls them all jackals. They don't honor their oaths. They don't honor their vows. And so Judah is quite literally, in this case, an adulterer in the sense that he doesn't honor his vow. But not only does he not honor his vow, he disregards, and this is also a matter of, this would be a vow breaking in a sexual sense as well. But he's broken his oath, and by giving her the ring, he shows complete contempt for his oaths. And this really is the problem: is contempt for one's oaths, for one's sworn oaths to covenants. And this is the root cause of the social instability. Now, however, the Canaanites, or the Hivite farmers, they tell Hamor, "You made a big mistake by agreeing to have your men circumcised, and now this is a dreadful situation." And so they say they're going to take the sons of Jacob and sacrifice them to the gods of the Canaanites, because they're not believers of the God of Abraham. So they're essentially animists, and they have many deities, and now they're going to make a sacrifice of Jacob's sons to these gods, essentially kind of a human sacrifice. And so the sons of Jacob don't get killed; they escape. But this is the situation that's developed. Now, I want to note too that the laughter, the kind of crazy laughter of Dinah, she's like an Ophelia-like character who descends into madness. But if you're watching the film and you're not following what's happening, she's just, what's going on with her? It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. But it makes total sense if you think about what is being said, because she is pregnant with the child of Shechem, who is a peasant, and she's from the shepherds. And so they tell her, well, you can't, just like the son of Judah, Shelah, being cut in two. Well, you can't. What are you going to do? This baby is going to have the blood of both groups within it, and this one is gonna forbid this. So you might as well just kill yourself or kill your child, have an abortion, because you have no other options given this dreadful situation that has developed. So Jacob's sons they're going to be put to death, but they do escape, as we'll see. Excuse me. Now, that was a scene that we just saw. So okay, so before the rift. So what this? Think about this as we go to the next scene, because when Hamar and Jacob begin discussing the situation, they both, as old men who lived through what they perceive as having been a time of peace in the days of Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael, they say, you know what? There was a time when we weren't confronted with these problems. Sort of those were the good old days, and they ruminate on this and they say, what are our options now? So let's listen to their conversation.
Waliju Isyaka ne ya don odo ayasro jema nyami
odo je tuma fara
otuma alakale uye iba fika femin do jenye jenla Waliju Isyaka kan mana alakale uye anga srokata anfau kerefe
Otmanina manrimaniya nimpa kelende tumbe ko Ibrahima atunkera chekorobaye ni sitara yorojan ade Isaka otun sera musotai
awatila dunia tuma fara folo de ana fatuma fara una hadama dena ndaba masa tuma fara tusukun anini rutuma fara.
So we get an image then of what it was like back in what they are ruminating on as being the time of peace, before, a peace between father and son, between man and God, between brother and brother, and so on. And this was the time when the father of Jacob and Esau married Rebekah. And Rebecca, remember, Rebecca is the water carrier, and we've also described the situation as a time of great dryness. And I think of water as being linked to the idea of tears, compassion, wetness, for compassion for the other, much like the story of Hagar, who breaks into tears when her son Ishmael is dying, and her compassion causes her to weep. And so this idea of being a water carrier, a water bearer, is linked to the idea also of a person of compassion, but in a time of dryness, dryness as in, a torturous, a torturous period that one is living through. Now, here is the biblical account. This is Genesis 26, 34 through 35. We're told when Esau was 40, he married Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. But these two women brought a lot of grief to his parents, Isaac and Rebekah. Now remember, in this film, there's the Hittites and the Hivites, but these are Hivites in the film, but they're all Hamites. They're all in the line of Ham. And they're not Shemites. They're not of the same group as Isaac and Rebekah. And so Sissoko doesn't really develop this theme much, but it's linked to the same ideas that what Esau does that causes the displeasure of his parents is not his dishonoring of the ties of blood. This is a theme in the griot epics. This is a theme in the Tariq el-Fatash as well, in the case of the era of the Askias, the honoring the ties of blood. And Esau has no regard for them.
Jidonola, Kinyasi Ibrahima Balma Okajamanama. Selenai, Aïnyoromeo Lala, Tukukofe, La Danife, Wagatila, Wagatimina Musugubo, Chitala.
Mangala. Ne matigi Ibrahima ka mangala. Bugo tigini ni bina kanto ma ika barata digenga. No bina ne jabi ka ho jibre ne imi. Ubina ke bugo tigini tingi. E ire min krengre isaka kurumusoe. No e ne matigi ke tinge. Demuso bideli atonga to mi kai paro kuna jila de.
Matigi, imu.
E jonde anye fonye sa bideli
Ne Rebekah, Betiel de, Milkai de Msana wafe.
yorobi fa fewa anga sira sula teme yorobi
Bini bakandu mchamba banfeno. Dewe rebe.
tirgo gere ipa kuisomogoye ko gwatidi Ibrahima no yimo ke nahor balmake kala jini tongo Rebecca la jini tenu ede tado ikele pe de tado
Jiden Ibri Dugumaka Sutubibe Matriye. Ayi kanto Folika Kanga di Matigi Ibrahima.
Okay, so now we're told in the biblical text that Rebecca was a very beautiful woman, like this young woman, and she, when she came back to see and meet her future husband Isaac, that Isaac was very worried because of her beauty that men would steal her, and so he told people that she was his sister, much as Abraham did with Sarah. This is a repetition of a theme in the story of Abraham and Sarah as well. But she was of the same family group, the same ethnic group, and so in this case, Isaac was obedient to his parents and married a woman who was of the same group. And so this is what Esau has shown contempt from. And so again, it's this question of respect for the ties of blood, which is echoed in the drinking of the soup that has contaminated his own blood, but in the wedding choices and the bridal choices that he makes as well. Okay, so the time has come, however, when we said that Esau has been wronged by Jacob. Jacob has wronged him. And so in the midst, so these two old men, Hamor and Jacob, they're going to tell this one story to their sons, and they say, then we're just going to disappear. We'll bequeath this story to you, and then we'll just go away. But the story that Jacob's telling is a very rosy story of the good old days. But remember, it wasn't the good old days for Esau. he was harmed by what Jacob had done to him. And all the while, we said the hunter Esau has been watching and waiting, and now he's going to pounce upon the scene and demand the justice that he deserves for what Jacob did to him all those years ago.
Awati, nyatuma farafara.
Mpa Isaka, wulila wulata sumane peka bi senatama, akunkorota tola nya bena nyogome una tolama. Otunye chideni Rebecca setolaye Ibrahimaka jamanana. Aywa, Rebecca fana kunkorota tola nya lara Isakaka. Aye chide nyininga. Ninduye che John natola ya kumbe ni kungo nina. Chide ikantama. Nyene matrichele. Yoronina. Rebecca ya kalankanata. Ubiri akuna. Fana keratini. Mpa Isaka kera Rebecca fe. Ka furu kaka musui kala don akasu. Ukele ya nyina abaka saya diminko. Follow, go to me ketende. Mamina dunia tumafara. Ah! Jete! Iba galana, galtkela. Kabri dunia dana. Tema ulo prafral de kono. Ne pa Isaka. Oya fraka bona. Ne pa Rebecca. Oya fraka bona. Yauba, ni fali bara de la. Mi yɛrɛ ka kɛ. Ka mara ye gari ye. N ka sigi o kɔnɔ. Ko tilennenya de bɛna kɛ nin yɔrɔ ye. Tiɲɛ la.
So Jacob now is getting what has been long coming for him, the plot of Esau, who's all the while they think that their only conflict is with the Canaanites, the Hivites, the peasant farmers, but all the while Esau has been lurking in the hills, and so now the troubles are really compounding, and it makes Jacob look a little silly because he's telling his children, preaching to them about how good it was when people cared about one another and honored their oaths. And Esau says, now, hold on, you look what you did, and I haven't forgotten, and now it's time for vengeance. So Jacob, at least in the way that this story is presenting this narrative to us, Jacob indeed committed a grave sin against his brother, an injustice against his brother. And this injustice then was passed down to the next generation. So when the sons of Leah attack Joseph and sell him to the Egyptians, it's a generational repetition of, in effect, of what took place before. The fratricidal conflict was already there, brother against brother. And of course, it goes all the way back to Cain and Abel. But Esau is reminding Jacob of that. He's not going to let him get away with this easy narrative of how good things were back in the day.
Balmache Saulo.
Muna be fage fa.
man to you saying, so Masoma Fajirife, Corte Esau to me that you so have. Londo Vladanife, to show Nanjit Lanyere.
And this again is the story, the lentil soup story that we already looked at. But the time again has come for the time has come for Esau's justice. Now, and I want to note here one of what we could say that in the way that this is being depicted, Jacob is going to have something of an epiphany when he realizes that that the problem is deeper than he thought, and that he has wronged his brother, that he's angry at his own sons for the wrong that they did to Joseph, but he hasn't thought about the wrong that he did all those years ago to Esau, and what they've done. It's sort of, they say there's an old saying, if the father eats garlic and the mother eats onions, will the child not stink? And so it's a similar situation. He's realizing, Jacob at last realizes his own culpability and the situation that has arisen.
Akosuina, Tlenia Brakere Niroi, Chela.
We have seen Dona Corte Esau Kono, Casababuake, and Faidu Aumike. Ikala Yere, Wagativina, Fongando Yakubafa.
Yakuba, what is it?
Matigi Batuka Deli Yasabengake Ga Dunia Farana Matiti Manifunga Willi Metu
Yakuba, what is it? Esau, tika murunga. Nakadi mangalai, klenya bebangi.
Como miliciani puntu kena kopatete. Kana konglasa. Sara ya fanye kote saupe. Kaluninga de meana na. Kali. Kapotani samo kake. Yende yusufuna nande mati.
Yakuba, aku apa? Nanti di tanggal kalau kumasa kumasa. Saya yang lihat tuh karya. Lalu aku siapa? Awak itu ya.
Ne chamana ke satu.
Munaya lagi kian kalau.
Yusuf.
Papa, dia. Ikan semetia.
Dipla ni matu okenye.
Amor, really? Eba manga ya kubatuna.
So now we have this image of Jacob wrestling with the angel. The angel here appears to be a like all those little figures, those children were depicted as angel. It was an interesting depiction of the angel. The biblical seems to be more of just one angel, and he wrestles with the angel. He gets the blessing. Now, the way this is depicted in the film, it's quite interesting. The angel says to Esau, "Put down your knife. Justice is for God." In other words, there's a biblical passage, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." It's not, Esau thinks he has a duty to get his vengeance, but it's not for him to get it. He doesn't have the right to seek vengeance. And when he puts down his knife, this is when, it's not long after that, then when Jacob realizes he's wronged his brother and how he seeks the forgiveness of his brother. The angels give him a new name after he wrestles with them, the name Israel. Remember, Israel means wrestler, one who wrestles. And at this point, Jacob has a new name, and Israel becomes the name of this new nation that God promised to come through the descendants of Abraham. And this is going to come via Jacob, who is now Israel.
Yuda, wuli, ifa kununa. Patrona. Ba. Ana ni deme. Mami ye mangala kinyo. O mako be mo ka deme na blema. Ba. Baka un be sara. Amba ke chukudi. Alo foite du kono. Ay ta misra jamana kam. Muna ba fu ambata misra jamana kam.
Masa dinke nyuman kileme misra jamana kan. A ce kan yi kon furuke nyuman sikem. Oye ne nin kanunde. No tara. Aba fo kai jina ban makedi. Uda jive chanyaka. Aba ka jigine da lauye. Kumunga dauye kakuta.
O masake be o koni. Now ya dara le kandron aka kuna stribana. O e mu kuna stri. Isuf ko kuna stri ke. E ba feka mu foti. An sahili do sowa. Posite do gauna.
ye min fɔ aw ye a y'o kɛ ba e yɛrɛ ɲɛ b'a la a t'a yɛrɛ kalama i balimamuso don
ba i bɛ ka kuma cɛ min fɛ nin ye ale de y'i ka baganw bɛɛ faga o tuma i b'an to a bolo
a kan k'a sago ye n balimacɛ don a ye fɛn min fɔ a ye a y'o kɛ a ye taa misira jamana na
Now, we know in the biblical story that also the reconciliation with Esau occurs. And when the brothers go to Egypt, now we don't get these stories in the film, but they're very important stories in the biblical text, and they're very important stories in the Quran as well. The Quran has plenty of stories about Joseph. And what happens in Egypt is that he is imprisoned because he's a servant of a man named Potiphar, who Potiphar's wife tries to seduce Joseph, but Joseph runs away, and then she accuses him of trying to rape her, and Joseph is placed in prison, and there he begins to be known because he interprets people's dreams. And when a plague comes to Egypt, this is the same plague that threatens the crops and the herds of the shepherds under Jacob and the control of his sons. Joseph correctly interprets the Pharaoh's dream and has him stock up to protect, to prepare against the coming famine. And so consequently, when the famine comes, the Egyptians are the only ones that are prepared for it. And it's thanks to Joseph's foresight, his ability to interpret the dream of the Pharaoh correctly. And so the Pharaoh puts him in charge. When the brothers arrive in Egypt, they don't realize that Joseph is their brother, and he tricks them. And I won't go through all of the narratives that happen, but long story short, they have a reconciliation, and the father of they bring their father Jacob. The whole tribe relocates to Egypt, and they live there for many generations in Egypt until the time of Moses, when the Israelites or the Hebrews come under the bondage of the Egyptians, and then they finally leave. But that's a whole other set of stories. And when they leave Egypt, Moses, at the time of Moses, they bring the body of Joseph back to the promised land where it is buried. They bring the bones of Joseph with them. So this is a really interesting story, and Israel in the film. Remember, let me go forward to the conclusion here. Israel is a figure of a nation. And as I said, this film is a meditation on the nation itself and the idea of the republic. And this is partly what's going on. How do you form a republic? Now, this image here is an image from the Leviathan of Hobbes. It's out of many, one is the idea. We even have that on the dollar bill here in the United States. And the only way that can occur is if there's virtue among those who live within the republic, and this is what has been lacking. But it seems that a healing has taken place here, and consequently, as a consequence, a new nation, in effect, can indeed be born. So this is an interesting film that provides yet another perspective and commentary on the biblical text that deepens in our appreciation and understanding of the biblical text, but also speaks to the very real and contemporary situation in Mali itself today and other parts of Africa.